That hurt. More verticality. But that brings us to, the solutions right now, which are Zimmerman and Miles Robinson. And who would believe that both of the guys who are our best, actually, I believe the best two center backs we have are actually still in MLS.
Yeah.
How the hell is that happening?
Well, you know what? I love it because I was an MLS player that held my own at the national team level.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I learned quite quickly about that whole experience, and even as I watch games now, but living through that, I learned that you could have played in Europe prior to a World Cup. You're going to probably play in Europe afterwards, whatever your future holds. But if you're not ready when the whistle blows, this shit doesn't matter, dude. It doesn't matter what you did. Are you ready right now? Are you ready to step up and play and perform right now and handle all the pressure and expectations that are coming with you right now? And that is yes, the experience of going through that process before. You could say you played in the Champions League, blah, 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 blah. But this is a World Cup, and a lot of us don't have that type of experience. And so when I got to play, that's what I learned. Like you have to be ready right now.
Yeah.
And so when people throw the MLS card in there, I get a little, I'm like, all right, I got to stretch here and relax, take a deep breath here because they don't know. And because I lived through it, I can speak to it. I'd say better than most. And so I'm glad that Miles and Walker are doing well.
We get criticism all the time when we criticize Roldan or whatever for having a bad game. And they're like, oh, you guys just hate MLS. No, we don't. We love Miles Robinson. We love Walker Zimmerman. This is nothing to do. Nothing to do with MLS. And
sure.
it does get frustrating because it's not about where they're playing, but how they're playing. And
Agreed.
Then my criticism is of what are the Euro scouts watching if Miles Robinson, as Bocanegra said, it's not really being heavily scouted or they're not getting a lot of offers.
Yeah.
What the hell is that about? What are these scouts doing? Who are they watching? Listen, I get McKenzie. He's fine. He's now playing at Genk, and that's great. But I mean, the best center back we have is either Zimmerman. I can't believe I'm saying this because when Lawless,
maybe you guys are doing this for me, but I appreciate it. Keep going.
But no. But
beginning of the qualifying, it was not that way. We're like, or even Nations League, we're saying like, you do your top 5 center backs and you list them off and like, all right, well, Long and Zimmerman, depending who's healthy at the time. But now it's like, it's completely changed over the course of time. As you're saying, it's who's sharp, who's ready to go now.
Right.
Well, I think it's also who's the best.
Right.
I mean, is Miles Robinson? I mean, listen, he's got some more growth to go, but is he not the best center back that we have right now? Or am I missing something?
No. I think what I love about him is that he continually gets better with every game. And I'm not saying out and out, making, last ditch tackles, being a hero for the art of defending. And I feel like the art of defending has been lost and people don't, Michael Parkhurst and I talk a lot and we just laugh at how much the art of defending's gone and people don't talk about it a lot. So if you see a player who's doing the last ditch defending, that means their positioning sucked, like they should never do that. And Miles Robinson, with the nuances and subtleties of the position, continues to get better as he starts to get exposed to the different levels, the different styles of teams that he's seen in CONCACAF in particular. He just continues to adapt to what's around him. And I think he plays within himself. And that's not easy to do, especially at a young age in that type of position. It took me many, many years to figure out how to get out of my own way. And I feel like Miles Robinson's already in a good spot. What I really like about Walker Zimmerman is less about maybe I think what he brings to the table physically and tactically and technically solid, right? He's solid in every area. You don't win, 2-time MLS Defender of the Year in a row or whatever, because, you're not good at all these things. Very proficient in all these areas. It's his intangibles where I think he's better. He's got presence. I think he raises the level of the game or the players around him. I think that he puts people in good spots. He puts out fires before they start. And he's good in the air. He's good on set pieces. The guy's the leader. And I think that's what we lacked with John Anthony Brooks, who it's fine. I've played with center backs that weren't outspoken, that just want to go out there and play their own game and not worry about anybody else. That's totally cool. But you need a partner. Somebody, one of those two center backs has to be barking and a leader because they can see the whole field. They're the ones that, for me at least, dictate when we press and when we drop. You can't have Tyler Adams decide when we're going to press because he doesn't know if the back line behind him is ready. And so you has to be one of your center backs who are vocal and making that decision. And that's super important. I think Walker Zimmerman has that in space. I see a lot of what I brought to the table in Walker Zimmerman. So I'm excited to see him do well. And he's been solid. And I think that's all you want out of your center backs. Dude, just be solid, be a leader, put us in and have our team shape be good. Make sure we're holding a high line, not dropping too deep, keeping our lines well spaced, get the ball and get it to the next guy. And you don't have to make the game, and just be kick-ass on set pieces, both defensively and offensively, and you're cool. And then those guys have been doing that consistently, and that's why I think they're being looked at as they should be.
Well, I think one word to really to paraphrase what you were just saying about Zimmerman is what he brings to the table is his confidence.
Yeah,
he enters the field and he's ready to roll. He's just confident with everything he does. He might not be the best player out there, but he's confident in what he's doing.
What I'll jump in and say really quick, sorry to interrupt, but Walker Zimmerman is 28.
Yeah.
So when I was in a World Cup year, I had turned in 2005 when I could feel that this was my chance. I was 28. I got my first cap at 28. So how's that for you? A little engine they could. But a year later, I knew that this was it. I wasn't going to make the World Cup team at 32, man. Like that wasn't going to happen.
Right.
So I think Walker Zimmerman has that same type of, I wouldn't call it desperation, but just that urgency that he knows it's now. Like if he doesn't kick ass now, he's not going to happen in the next cycle. And I think that urgency is giving him maybe that edge of being sharp, knowing, listen, man, I just got to be kick ass. I'm going to get this opportunity. And for me, when I got my opportunity, I was not going to let it go by playing poorly, or I just wouldn't let myself play poorly. I was going to do everything I possibly could to be as sharp as I could. And that meant help that team in every single possible area, including in the locker room and off the field.
Well, and he's looking at all the players nipping at his heels behind him, 100%. And they're all young guns. I mean,
yep, that's right.
He realizes this has to be his last shot, you know?
And so what's funny when you watch Walker play and you think this about him, you can see it. You can see his urgency. He's not dicking around. He knows a lot of these young guys like, oh, well, I got another World Cup, 2 World Cups in me. He doesn't. And I feel like you can see that urgency, and I love that about it.
Yeah, that's why we need a World Cup every 2 years. I think it's
oh man.
I mean, the ageism thing here is just not fair.
No, it is.
You only get 3 or 4 shots at this fucker, and then it's gone.
Max brought that up on Twitter today, and I brought up the idea of possibly, instead of having a World Cup every 2 years, maybe we have a summer World Cup every 4 years, and then a winter World Cup where we always play in snow with an orange ball. That's how we go.
I mean, they're trying to grow the game, and that's their message, right? That's their mission as a organization.
I think that's fine as long as the ball glows. I want to see a glowing ball, and I want it played at night. So we're talking about Pepe moving to Wolfsburg. But when we've seen some other moves that haven't quite worked out. That again probably cost a guy, maybe not long term, but short term, their chance. We saw Brian Reynolds at Roma. That's not working out. I'm not sure how that deal even got made, but I thought right away to myself, this is just not the right place for Brian Reynolds. And so we've seen Horvath. The guy, wherever he goes, he rides Pine. Miazga, I think he's got COVID now, but he's been riding Pine pretty much all season for Alves, except for the very beginning of the season. So, you can play yourself or not play yourself off of the team.
Well, Eric Palmer Brown's another example. Went to Man City and now he's kind of disappeared in the loan system. Not that he's completely disappeared, but he's not playing at Man City.
Well, he's barely playing where he's at now.
Yeah, I know.
No, guys, he just played the last 2 games for 12.
That's why I said barely.
Oh, okay.
2 games doesn't make a lot.
I'm a big EPB fan, but I just, man, it bums me out. He's so talented. I wonder if he's going to come back to MLS.
Yeah, and I don't know.
What are we looking at age-wise? What is he, like 24?
24.
Yeah.
24.
Yeah, it's getting up there for him. He's got to figure something out here soon. And this Man City endless loan thing is just, it's not looking good.
Right. But just don't pull Miazga and re-sign with him. Come on.
We can talk about center backs all night, but we're not going to do that. We're going to move to the midfield.
I'm out.
Oh, look at the time.
Yeah, gotta go. Got a center back thing to do. All right. Acosta, Roldan, Lletget. We we have received some criticism because we've been pretty critical, especially on Roldan, because I don't think he's really earned a spot for January. Lletget will probably be there anyhow, and Acosta is really the only backup that I think Greg holds in mind behind Adams. So, but I mean, as far as those three guys, not an MLS criticism at all. It's just those three guys. How do they still fit into Greg's picture going forward for you in January?
I would say that every manager has a couple guys that they trust, that they can play any role. They're not going to complain. They're going to do their job. Their attitudes are good. Maybe they help raise the level of practice. Whatever you see, right? I was one of those players. I'm not going to pretend that I wasn't. But what's interesting is that when I look back at the World Cup roster here in 2014, last time we qualified, are you serious? I'm still bitter about West not qualifying for 2018.
Yeah.
But you have players on this team. I don't know. I mean, mixed Discarud, like what? Julian Green shouldn't have been on the team. Obviously, Landon Donovan should have been on there. I don't know what anybody thinks about Brad Davis, Chris Wondolowski, Aaron Johansson. I mean, these are players that I think would fall into a similar conversation as the three players that you're mentioning. Kyle Beckerman would be another one. I actually thought Kyle Beckerman was pretty good in the 2014
Well,
World
he
Cup.
definitely was one of Klinsmann's favorites. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
I think Discarud was kind of back and forth. Some of the other guys, I think Klinsmann was less into that comfort zone in general. I just think he would just do shit on a whim, and he would have
that makes sense.
no tactical plan at all. He'll just say, "Hey, I know we haven't practiced it, but we're going to start with a 3-4-3 today, guys. You fine with that?"
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Now I don't think Berhalter does that shit. Berhalter plans. These guys are definitely his. I agree with you. They're his safety pillows or whatever you want to call them. But I don't know how much longer they're going to be necessary. Because I just don't feel like their play in a lot of ways has justified continuing to even play them in the last game, which was a friendly that meant nothing.
Yeah. Don't get me going on the Bosnia game. Yeah, I would say that Zardes used to be another one of Greg's favorites, and you could tell he's easing away from Zardes. And that might be something that could give people some hope as to what might happen with these particular players. I think Acosta is going to be in the team. No matter what. I think we're a little thin in the six. Like if Tyler Adams goes out, you could put X player there or whoever else, but it seems like Acosta at least has enough experience, knows and understands how Greg wants to play, which I think is very important. And I can see Acosta. Lletget, the hard part, I don't know Sebastian at all, but the hard part for me is knowing what happened to him on a personal level off the field.
Yeah.
He was playing pretty well and was pretty sharp at the beginning, top half of the year, but there had to have been some heavy shit going on with this life that it's hard for me to know for sure. Lletget for me is definitely on the bubble. Roldan, I could see not being involved. And I actually was pretty disappointed in how he played against Bosnia.
Yeah.
And I think that for the players that had that all that experience and were playing against Bosnia's C team and with a man up and we still couldn't break them down. And I just thought he was really loose and casual, or maybe even trying too hard. It just was a lose-lose for those types of guys. You had nothing to gain in that game. I'd almost like, hey, you know what? Let the younger guys play. I don't want to, lose any vibe there. So I just thought that Roldan, I think, and I've gone through this. When I was in the 2006 leading up to that, we had Steve Ralston, and he ended up scoring the game winner against Mexico for us to qualify and didn't go. So you're going to have guys that you lean on during qualifying that you aren't going to lean on or even take to the World Cup. And then in 2010, when I was a part of that qualifying phase, Connor Casey scored down in Honduras to help us qualify, and he didn't go to the World Cup either. I mean, there are always going to be a couple guys that, they're there. And those are guys that are actually performing. You could argue that these other guys haven't really put in that effort that's winning you over consistently. And so we'll see, but I think there are going to be, one or two players. I mean, if you were a manager, you'd want to take 1 to 2 of your guys that you love, so out of 23, I think that you've had the benefit of dictating that a little bit, but I think Acosta's in for sure. The other two, I'm on the fence about.
Well, definitely Acosta fits in because we don't have a backup, as mentioned beforehand, really, for Adams and number 6.
Yeah.
I think the big question a lot of people have when it comes to talking about Lletget and Roldan, for that matter, is that there are other eights and other center midfield options that are starting to thrive more and more as the year progresses in Europe, that probably dictate a roster spot more than them in that sense. I mean, you look at somebody like a Testament of Venezia, and you look at who's getting more and more minutes every game, it seems like. And then you look at Luca De La Torre, who's appears to be on Berhalter's shit list. I don't know, but he's not getting many looks as a whole. But I mean, just the criticism comes from the fact that people just think there are more capable and players that will improve the roster, even if it's just bit minutes at the end of the game, or rotational players on a three game and 6 day window.
No, I want to see more Luca De La Torre. I want to see more Joe Scally. I'm open to all types of different players. I think that I love broadening the player pool. I thought that was one of Klinsmann's best ideas, was bringing in anybody and everybody that wanted to play. It's just, and for the players that were complaining privately, to play better, man. You know, if you want to play more, then play better. I don't care where you play. You can play in Europe, you can play South America, you can play MLS, wherever. Just play better. That's it. It's really, really simple. Just play better when you get your opportunities. And if it's for your club and you got to play better to get a sniff with the national team, then do that. And then when you get in with the national team, you just play well when you get your opportunity. And then that's when you quiet people and you tell them, and that's when you can tell them to shut up. But if you're just going to sit there and bitch and complain about not getting your chance, but you're not playing well for your club, I don't know. How do you think this whole thing works? You know? So that's just my overall general feeling. And so the fact that Joe Scally didn't get called in when he was kind of playing at his peak, I thought, of the season for Mönchengladbach, he should have got called into the second qualifying window to be around the guys, see what it's
integrate,
exactly. And then in the third one, then that's when you roll him out for the third qualifying window, maybe give him 5 or 10 minutes, you know. But it's tough. I know it gets a little tighter, especially in that last window where we only had 2 games, and it makes it a little bit more difficult to try new players. But then they bring him in for that one to integrate. You're like, why not the one before? But you know, I don't know. It's interesting. You know what I love though? This is all great problems to have. We finally have so much depth to actually talk about and work through that it's exciting. And the future is crazy bright.
So
it is, especially if you're an old man like me. I'm 50. And, you know, I've been watching U.S. soccer since I was 10. So 40 years of this shit. And people don't realize how rough the road has been. I mean, literally, I remember when Seattle played their first opening game and the crowd was full. Sounders, my hairs on my arm stood up. I mean, we've come a long ways. I think people are a little spoiled about with this right now. But I do want to mention this before you mentioned Steve Ralston, and it was so funny because we used to, or I did back in the big soccer days. I put up a video, a photo of Steve Ralston and Adam Yauch from Beastie Boys right next to each other. They looked exactly the same. They were the same fucking person. It was insane.
Secret identity. We knew it.
That hurt.